It's all about your delivery. Too many people have great messaging, but terrible delivery. And as a communications coach who has been professionally trained, that what I will say is the difference between a person that can sometimes get the sale done or a person that can really leave an impact with their audience from stage.
Welcome to the Adriana Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with a guest, Kyle. We actually connected at the end of last year through a mutual friend who had recommended you. And I think we played phone tag or social media tag as a different term. And I saw your reel saying that you were, open and willing to be on some podcasts. And I thought you'd be a great guest to have on my YouTube channel. I'm selfish that way, and I wanted to talk to you and get to know you. So to me, this is a great opportunity. So welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I love to hear about you. We don't know each other too much. You just gave me like 5 things about you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to remember all these things? There's so much there. Tell me, like in a little snapshot, who you are and what is your main focus right now?
Okay, great question. And I always love this one because I often tell people, well, what day is it and what time it is? Because that can really determine what I'm speaking to. So for those that don't know me, my name is Kyle Guthro. I am a real estate investor. I've been doing so since 2007. I am also a licensed real estate agent. I have done everything in the real estate space from fix and flip. I used to do a lot of flipping. I've done construction, project financing. I have done buy and hold, Airbnb, multifamily. The only thing I haven't done is land development. And it's something that I'm intrigued by, but there's a bunch of other skill sets that I'm strong at, so I focus on them. But most importantly, I'm obsessed with the real estate space. I'm also a public speaker and a coach.
Tell me a little bit about your real estate. Let's start with the investing side first. You said you've done everything in real estate. I think that's a very common theme for real estate investors. I think we all start and we kind of try like everything that's out there. You said the only thing you haven't done is development. The only thing I haven't done is actually a flip. Even though I co-own a construction company with my husband here in the GTA, I just never really... I've always been into like, if I can refinance and put my money out, why would I sell kind of mentality. So
Right.
We just always did BRRRRs instead and kept a lot of the properties. We have exited a couple. Since you tried all the different strategies, what is your top strategy? Which strategy do you like the most and why?
Great question. I think you have to be, as an investor, you have to be fluid, and the market's proving that right now. Being a buy and hold real estate investor right now is extremely difficult. With interest rates the way they are and affordability, it's really hard to make properties cash flow, especially in the single family, duplex, triplex, quadplex. You get into multifamily, it's a different story, but you have to kind of roll with the punches. And I often tell people, well, when you're in an up market, flipping can be very lucrative because it goes up every couple $1,000s a day, sometimes even a week. So when I was in the flipping world, it was great because it was the kind of height of the market, even though we were in the middle of the pandemic. And my business partner and I at the time were like, oh my God, what did we get ourselves into? We can't even get to Home Depot. It's closed. But little did we know that that was the time when we had that crazy amount of real estate increase from that, call it summer of 21 to like the Christmas of 21, where it's just like, what the heck happened? So my favorite tends to be boring and simple. The reason why, I'm always like you, came from a project management background. I was in the corporate world for 12 years. I ended up semi-retiring, quitting in 2019 because I wanted to just go on my own and pursue my passions of real estate and public speaking. So I learned a lot about systems and processes. And that's why before the onset of the call, I was just enamored by how detailed oriented and process driven you were, just from the time we met to the time we got to here. And I admire that a lot because as a ex-project manager, you always had to be organized because if you weren't, money went missing and the schedule fell apart very quickly. But I have a variety of different real estate that I enjoy. The buy and hold, like I said, is very simple, straightforward. Dealing with tenants can sometimes be troublesome, problematic, but if you get on top of it and like treat them like clients and treat them like human beings, not just a tenant, I think that does go a long way. A lot of sleepless nights have came from bad tenants. I think it's just part of the business, part of the game. I have not yet met a real estate investor that has said they haven't had a cash problem with one of their tenants or properties. But there's something beautiful and something magical about flips. Taking absolutely the most disgusting properties in the city, which I had the great fortune of seeing, and transforming them into an absolute diamond in the rough. But too many people are in this get rich quick. Maybe social media is to blame. You see these 25-year-olds sitting in front of Lambos that they rented that they don't even own. And then they think, well, look at how I made $10,000 a day. It's like, really? Are there that many multi-millionaires out there now? Maybe. But that's the beautiful thing about real estate is that, and that's kind of one reason why I've always stayed in this niche, is because with the click of a button, I can't offload my portfolio like a stock. From the power of your phone, I can go empty out my stocks. Can't do that with real estate. I can, but not as quickly. I got to list it. I got to sell it. There's a lot more steps in place. Yeah, I think that's why I truly am in love with real estate.
You talked about the ability to stay positive, and I was having a conversation with somebody on one of the episodes, and we talked about it doesn't get easier, you just get better. And because you're talking to your like coach and they're like, that's we deal with that stuff all the time. And I found that as I grew and I scaled my portfolio and we got into bigger deals, more dollars assigned to each deal, bigger renovations were in development. And we're like, okay, now we're talking $20 million projects, all the way from my first triplex that I bought for like 300,000. It just, the numbers kept getting bigger, the scale kept getting bigger. And the problems are still there. And like those sleepless nights that I had from my triplex to, any sort of stresses that I face right now, the biggest difference is I have become better. And the confidence that I have is in myself, in my ability to, stay calm, to stay, to understand that this is not the end of the world, that there's always a solution, there's always a way to pivot, that I'm resourceful, that I have a great network, that I have a lot of experience, and falling back on all those things to be able to manage times like this. Because I think we all, as a real estate community, but really everybody, not just real estate, has been hit with this, recession we've been going through, with the rise of interest rates, with inflation and cost of living. We are all feeling it. We're all going through it together. And I had this conversation with my husband this morning. I said, the biggest commitment we should have to each other is stay as mentally healthy and stable as we possibly can as we tackle on the day-to-day stresses that happen, things out of our control, that we're going to have to like come together and pivot. How do you stay in the midst of everything going on? How do you stay, focused? How do you stay healthy in the midst of everything?
Great question. Honestly, health and fitness goes above everything. Like I have a set order of things that I go through. It's called happy, healthy, wealthy. So happiness, state of mind, positivity, because I think it's critically important, especially in today's day with mental health problems on the rise. So always just making sure that I'm grounding myself, making sure that I'm grateful, reminding myself like there is no guarantee to tomorrow. I know as cliche as it sounds, but obviously health takes a big priority now. When I was flipping and I was in the construction industry, that world can get away from you quickly. And what I mean by that is you work very long hours. Sometimes these guys show up at 6, 7:30 in the morning. You're on a job site, and typically you're not leaving there till it gets dark again at night. I remember certain flips where I would get at the property at 7 and we would not leave till midnight. And I'm like, this is not healthy. But I loved it so much that it was enjoyable. But when you're caught in those moments, you tend to not eat as healthy. Yes, you are active, but then you notice like the typical construction diet, which is coffee, donuts, and cigarettes. Thank God I don't smoke. But if you're doing coffee and donut runs, you're like, I'll get a 12 pack of donuts for the guys. You do that every day. It's like, man, kind of like, grandma, like, what the hell? Where'd this come from? Yes, you are working and moving a lot, but you're still kind of eating crap. But I think it's important that too many people put their wealth, their businesses ahead of their health. And a really quick side story, and one that I always share because it's important because it has affected a lot of people. I had a close cousin who I would literally consider like a best friend, 6 months older than me. Very close. We grew up playing hockey, playing sports, snowboarding. In the summer of 22, we found out that he had been diagnosed with cancer. And he had such a great mentality. He was so upbeat. I'm going to beat this. He literally had, his partner was pregnant. He's battling cancer in the hospital. She's in and out of the hospital for the birth of their child. And we ends up finding out his first child's born July 2022. I'm getting the years right. Yeah, 2022. 5 months later, he gets the awful news that it's stage 4. The doctors make the mistake and say, hold on, you're cancer free, only to tell him the next day, we made a mistake. We're actually stage 4. He's like, what the? So now they're giving him like end of life treatment. And he's like, no way. I just had a child, my first child. So he seeks treatment in other countries, naturopathic. Not to say that the Canadian healthcare system failed him, but he had to go to Spain, to Germany, ended up going to Tijuana. And last year, I was in Las Vegas for an event, February, and something was pulling on me. My cousin and I talked all the time. Something wasn't right. I'm like, man, I haven't heard from him. And I knew he was in Tijuana. So I'm in Las Vegas. San Diego is only just over the border. Call my parents. I'm like, hey, have you heard from Aunt Michelle? I'm like, no, I haven't. So I'm like, I'm going to go fly down to Tijuana and see Jesse. And my parents were a little reluctant. They're obviously, you hear the stories about Tijuana, and let's call a spade a spade. It's not the safest city in the world right now, but I didn't care. I ended up leaving my event. Everyone in Las Vegas is like, where the hell are you going? I was like, something's pulling on me. My intuition's calling. I was supposed to be in Vegas for the whole weekend. I ended up flying out Thursday. Booked a flight from Las Vegas to San Diego. Get to San Diego. My dad's like, I'm going to meet you there. I'm like, okay, no problem. So now it's my dad's messaging me. He's like, where are you? Why? My flight was delayed. Don't fly with Spirit or Sprint or whatever the hell that yellow and black airline is. A 1-hour flight was 4 hours delayed. Finally get into San Diego, get a driver to take me over to Tijuana. And my dad's like, call me before you get to the hospital. Like, okay, it's odd. So I call him, and then finally he's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm over the border. I'm at the hospital. And he gives me the news. He's like, it's not good. I'm like, what do you mean it's not good? Like, I just talked to Jesse a couple days ago. He's like, he took a turn for the worse. I was like, oh, God. Okay. So I get up there and come to his bedside, and I realize he's on his deathbed. There's no coming back from this. For those that have seen people close to death, it's not a pleasant sight. I've witnessed it a couple times. But this one hit home. This one hit hard. Seeing a grandparent or an aunt, an uncle who's lived 60, 80, 90 years. But to see someone in their late 30s and someone so close to you, it was heartbreaking. And just to be surrounded by his mom, his dad, my aunt, and him was tough. It really, really brought me to terms because it reminded me how fragile life was. And that I listened to my intuition. So when I showed up in Tijuana, Mexico, sat with him, a couple hours go by, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give him some time. He passed away an hour later. And if I wouldn't have listened to my intuition to say, Kyle, go, something's pulling you to go see your cousin, I would have missed that. I would have missed his final day on earth. And the reason why I share this is because so many people have, some way, shape, or form, someone's experienced someone passing through cancer or some other tragedy. And I think it's so critically important that as real estate investors, as people in the mortgage world and the business profession, to never forget that. And I know it is cliche, but people sometimes just get so caught up in business that they forget that, hey, life could end tomorrow. What is the legacy that you want to leave for your kids, for your family, for your friends? So people are so fixated and focused on building this real estate empire. And I will admit, not that this was the catalyst, but there was a portion of this that I lost my marriage because I was working so much. So I often ground myself in saying, what would Jesse do? What would Jesse say? Jesse, my cousin who passed. And I just every day think about him. And for some, it's a parent, it's a loved one, it's a colleague, it's a kid. And I often tell people, listen, yes, it's so important to build an empire and wealth and this beautiful world and these amazing houses and the cars you want to drive. I'm not denying that. But I often remind people that on your deathbed, and when I witnessed my cousin's death on his deathbed, none of that mattered. Not a single ounce of it. And if I were to ask him what would be the most important thing in his life, to give one more day on this planet. And I just think too many people are living like they're going to live forever. Maybe technology will take us there one day. But I often tell people, what is the legacy you want to leave? And it doesn't even need to be wealth, business. It could be even a digital footprint. That's where I've been paying a lot more attention. It's like, imagine just even what we're doing right now. This will live forever on the internet. I will pass, you will pass, and this will live on forever. How cool would that be that our kids, grandkids, great-grandkids can come back and reference this video? Now, unless there's a major collapse of YouTube, but this will forever live on the internet. And I think that's cool because even though we will eventually pass, and I don't mean to make this somber, but it's true. There's so much reality in this. And I know some people don't like talking about death, but I think it's important because in business and in creating this world, I try to remind people that yes, dealing with financial problems from tenants and from problems and flips and all that, it can be catastrophic. But at the end of the day, is it really? There'd be times I'll be like stressing over like a $10,000 bill. And I just remind myself, I'm like, you'll get through this. You're smart enough, you're experienced enough to figure it out. So for your audience members listening, just also to take chances. Like, what do you really have to lose? Now, don't go bet the house on a business idea. But people ask me, how did you quit? How did you quit the golden handcuff job? So much so that my company actually threw a party for me because people don't quit this company. And the reason why is because I saw the writing on the wall. I knew exactly where I would be in 10 years, and that actually freaked me out more. It's like you're going to stay on this trajectory and it's going to end you here. It's like, is that all there is to life?
You just can't.
Yeah. So I think it's just important that people, hey, if you want to buy an investment property, figure it out. If you don't have the money, find a money partner. If you've got a skill set, but you're missing the money portion of it, we'll raise it. There's a plentiful and unbelievable amount of opportunities out there, but you do have to put in the work. I think too many people are caught up in this, what we call, and you hear this all the time, oh, I want passive income. I'm going to call it right now. That is complete. There is no such thing as passive income. You have to somewhat work for your money. Not to say that you can't have passive income later, but to sit there and think, oh, I'm going to buy a property, put a tenant in it and set it and forget it. No, that's not how this works.
Not at all. It's a lot of hard work.
So
I think this is a really perfect segue to sales, because you're talking about like your ability to raise capital, your ability to generate income, your ability to create wealth for yourself. And a huge, and you and I were talking about this, huge portion of that is your ability to sell and to communicate. So talk to me. I mean, you mentioned you had worked really closely with Grant Cardone. He's such a polarizing man, but it works in his favor, to be honest, that he's so polarizing. And he gets out there. I don't know that anybody doesn't know who Grant Cardone is. So I love that. Tell me what makes for successful sales.
Sales can be a tricky word. Some people like it, some people don't, but they don't realize that every day you transact in some sort or another of a sale. You go to a coffee shop, you buy a cup of coffee, that is a sale. You were sold to. Marketing, advertising, and yes, as crazy as Grant can be sometimes, at least I will admit he's authentic. Who he is online is who he is in person. And I've met both sides. He's the exact same. So I'll give that man credit for that. Now, when it comes to the sales world, you can do the aggressive, hard closing. It does work. But I often find that people have this misconception of sales. And that's why I brought in a lot of the communication, like what I teach on is what I call communication and sales. I bring these two together because we have a lot of sales trainers out there. There's some really good ones that are awesome at what they do. They go through their 12 steps, boom, close the deal. But did they make the person feel good? Did they make them feel like they were part of the process, part of the deal? Some yes, some no. Whereas I think this beautiful thing that Canadians have to offer is that we're kind. We tend to be very apologetic. We're sincere. Where sometimes I experience this, I'm not broad brushing everybody, but I did work a lot in South Florida where it was aggressive, a lot of high intense energy. I'll never forget walking into Grant's head office in Miami and seeing the sales floor. It was like legit Wolf of Wall Street shit. Just guys yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering and going, oh, this like closing deals. I'm like, wow, this is a high energy room. But what made it beautiful is that as Canadians, we had our style. And I sometimes find Canadians are two things. Again, I'm broad brushing, so don't attack me. Sometimes Canadians are cheap and chicken. What I mean by that, we're cheap with purchasing stuff, what we truly know we need, and we're chicken with the content we deliver. Sometimes we hold back. And as a communications coach, there's a lot of times I'm like, tell me what you do. Oh, I'm a real estate lawyer. Okay, you're more than just a real estate lawyer. Later that I dig and find out that the person's transacted into $1 billion worth of real estate. And I tell them that. Don't you think that's a critical piece of information that could benefit your potential clients? Oh, I don't want to come off as bragging. There's a difference between bragging and being boastful. and cocky than it is just stating facts and figures. Like, for example, I'm going to put you on the spot for your audience. In 30 seconds or less, tell me what you do.
It's putting on the spot. I love it. I'm a real estate investor and an entrepreneur. I own and operate over 100 units in apartment buildings. I raise capital and bring investors into our deals, over 7 million of capital raised, over 20 million of asset under management. And we own 2 businesses, construction company, as well as a virtual agency.
Okay, you're pretty good. That's very well done because you actually brought in facts and figures. A lot of people will use business jargon. Oh, I'm a hardworking real estate agent that buys and sells homes. Really? Like, you actually pointed out that you have $20 million assets under management. You actually used numbers. We have 100 units under our belt. Do you think that you could showcase that a little bit stronger?
Yeah, I want to practice.
You held back. And I can tell you, you held back. And
Yeah.
that's the little bit of the Canadian in us. We tend to not brag. We tend to not be boastful. Whereas sometimes counterparts, and I'm just using the Americans as a demographic, sometimes Americans are very patriotic. They're very loud. They're very out there, which is great. But there be times it's like, I'm the #1 real estate agent in South Florida. I'm like, hold on a second. That's a pretty bold statement. But they believe it. And the way they say it and the way they speak it and their energy comes off as confident. So I think in the sales world, what I will tell people is to share what you've actually done. Here's the thing. It's okay with stretching it a little bit, but don't lie. I've often caught some real estate agents, investors, in a lie. It's like, did you actually own that multifamily property? Because I went and looked it up in Geo Warehouse and your name's not on it. So, oh, I raised money for it. Okay, that's different than owning that property. So, and especially in this social media world that we live in, where everyone's got a megaphone and showing the highlight reel of their life, I often remind people too, like, a lot can be learned in the vulnerabilities. If I were to say, I am the best real estate agent in the Toronto area, I've done $20 million in real estate and nobody can beat me, versus I have transacted and helped my clients transact in over $20 million this year alone. I specialize in single family homes in the Rosedale and Summerhill area and also on the bridle path. Based on the facts and figures that I have been able to get for my clients, we've been able to garner them a big profit and a big result. So if you're looking for an agent that's going to work extremely hard, get you top dollar for your property, and has the results to back them up, I'm your person. It's all about your delivery. Too many people have great messaging, but terrible delivery. And as a communications coach who has been professionally trained, that what I will say is the difference between a person that can sometimes get the sale done or a person that can really leave an impact with their audience from stage.
So crucial. Here's what I realized recently. We talked about, I automated my social media quite a bit. I have a team, they're doing their thing, they post, they get clips. A lot of my clips are from these podcast episodes because it's just a good opportunity to, use multiple repurposed content. I recently was challenged by somebody or given as a homework to start getting it out there. I'm currently coaching people that want to raise $1 million. This is what I've raised, over 7 million. There is a formula to it that's unique to you. It is a sales, and communication type of role. But once you're there, you can repeat it over and over and over again. I also teach people how to bring lifetime partners, capital partners, so that you raise that 1 million and that 1 million is going to replicate in different deals. And so he challenged me to post content that was me talking and speaking about this. And I realized how uncomfortable I got. And I'm like, I'm on social media all the time, but I have automated it so much, or I've made it comfortable for myself, and I'm out of habit to, give that message just like I did right now out there and put myself out there in that way, speaking with that kind of confidence. I'm like, it's honestly practice.
Yes.
There's no other way. This is when I started raising capital, my first few calls, I felt so uncomfortable. It wasn't even funny. I had put my points together. I understood the deal really well, but when I got in front of people, I just felt so uncomfortable, and all these voices in my head. Why would somebody invest with me? Who would give me money? And is this going to work? And am I saying the right things? And it was literally meeting with as many people as I possibly could and practicing, and then adjusting and seeing the value that I was bringing to the table, and realizing that I'm actually bringing you an opportunity here, not the other way around. I have an opportunity for you to invest in that's going to allow your money to grow while I'm taking care of the work, because that's what my team does. And it just shifted things, and I've been able to raise an incredible amount of capital, and that's what's allowed us to get to the scale that we did in such a short period of time. So I love what you had to say. Somebody recently said to me that sales is vision and communication,
Yep.
and so is leadership.
Well, in communications, and the reason why I got such a passion towards it is because it's so critical in every avenue. It works in the corporate world. I saw exceptionally great leaders lead teams because of unbelievably strong communication skills. And then I saw the reverse. I had the great fortune as being an ex-project manager. My team was almost 300. It's at one point 308 people from every single walk of life, from PhD engineers to barely high school construction folks. But here's the thing. We had to get them to talk to each other. And sometimes that PhD engineer was actually wrong. And the construction guy knew how to build transformer stations or power lines or utility towers when the engineer knew how to design it. So there's something very beautiful about even how to communicate with your kids, how to communicate with investors, how to communicate and get your messaging across. But there is something beautiful and poetic about it, because there's times where people can come, yes, teachers, professors will have to push out content. Sometimes it doesn't land. What I often tell people is when I work with them, they have great content, but the delivery needs improvement and the storytelling needs improvement. This is why film pulls us in. We're not so much encapsulated by the actual content, but the story pulls us in. The characters pull us in. The emotion pull us in. So when I work with my clients and go, hey, everybody, I'm here to raise $1 million for this investment deal. You're going to make 15% on your money. This is a great deal. It's safe. Yeah, that's boring. You have to figure out what is that they want to do with that money. Hey, you ever thought of maybe making an extra $15,000 a year? What could that do for you? And making it about them. And kind of just to wrap in and put a bow on that speaker point was the reason why people fear public speaking, it's actually the number one fear in the world, is because they're terrified of judgment of others. But where does judgment come from? Ego. So actually, your ego is the reason why you're not speaking or becoming a better speaker on stage, because your ego is so worried about the judgment of others that it's going to stop you from being a prolific speaker. So when I often tell people, especially new speakers, and again, being professionally trained and award-winning, I often tell people the reason why you're nervous is because you're making it all about you. But when you're on stage or whenever you're speaking, or even you pull out your phone to make a video, you have to make it about everybody else. Make it about your audience. Make it about the people that you're speaking to. Even if you're on one-on-one, the other person you're speaking to. What that does, you are here to just give an immense amount of value. Exactly what you're doing. You're putting out a podcast to give an immense amount of value. Yes, there's going to come judgment and comments from the trolls and the haters. You have to welcome them because some of them, there is some hidden truth in it. I often tell people, guys, tell it to me straight. What did you like? What didn't you like? I got thick skin. You probably have thick skin too, because we're in the construction world. You have to have thick skin in the construction world. But grounding people that say, hey, if you're going to go on stage or if you're going to pull out your phone, yes, nerves are normal. And like you said, practice does make perfect. But make it about your audience. And that removes that judgment that will cast on you because you're sitting there. Does my hair look good? Am I making the right facial expressions? Are the words? Stop it. Just go out there and provide an immense amount of value. If you screw up, who cares? We're human.
Yeah, I love that. And this has been such a fun conversation. I have one final question for you, which I asked all my guests. If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what message would you share?
Ooh, great question. I would probably, 30 seconds, I would probably share with the world the importance of truly going after what you desire or deserve. And what I mean by that is putting your health and fitness top of mind. I would definitely speak that more into people's heads, especially with the way things have gone in the fitness and nutrition world. And that life is seriously short. No one's guaranteed. Nobody on this planet is guaranteed more than 119 years. I don't know what the record is, but call it 120 years. What are you going to do with it? Seriously, wake up, be super grateful that you're surrounded by friends, family, loved ones. And for those that are or struggling, to seek out help. It's okay. That was kind of the message I would, and just to be kind. Like, honestly, I know it's so cliche, but we lose it so quickly. Just be kind to one another. And because I think that has a bigger impact on people than all the wealth and money that you'll create.
I love that. Be kind, focus on your mental and physical health. The rest comes. The rest just comes. I think anybody that's experienced wealth will tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's awesome, but that's not what life is all about. Thank you, Kyle. This has been so fun. Where can people find you?
So I'm pretty active on social media, Instagram being my most active. Trying to grow a bit on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, give me a follow. All my socials are the exact same at Kyle Guthro, KYLEGUTHRO. Website, www.kyleguthro.com. I have a few cool things coming down the pipe that I'm going to be working on. It's going to be involving in the real estate space. So I often tell people just start following along on Instagram. And if they do need to reach out to me, please DM me. I'm more than happy to connect for a conversation. And most importantly, I am very social because I want to be your biggest cheerleader. I know what it's like being an entrepreneur when you're in your darkest absolute days where you think you are alone. I want to be that light to know that, you know what, I can support you, even if it's just, hey, an ear to listen to. I believe as entrepreneurs, that world is very roller coaster. It is ups and downs. One minute you think you're a genius, the next minute you think you're the stupidest person on the planet. And I think it's in those moments where you have a good collective group of people that you can lean on and rely on that makes this journey a lot more pleasant.
Amazing, amazing message, amazing conversation, so insightful, so much value here. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person sometime and connecting more and doing something together. So thank you again. Have a wonderful time. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon. Don't forget to subscribe, follow Kyle, follow the podcast, and follow us on social media for continuing to get such amazing value here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.